Hello. I've been thinking lately about, well, it's kind of like a paradox. There's a story that one of the viewers on this channel commented, uh, a traditional story from where they're from. They said that they're from Albania. And there's a story that the viewer shared that goes something like this, from what I remember. There's a man in a village, and one of his friends comes and says, "Hey, you gotta watch out. There's a guy that wants to kill you." And the man says, "Who's that guy?" And the friend describes the person and says her name. And the man says, "Oh, no, he wouldn't want to kill me. I never helped him or interacted with him in my life." And the man was right. The guy didn't actually want to kill him. And some time passes by. And then the same friend comes back and says, "Oh, you really gotta watch out. There's this other person that wants to kill you." So the man asks, "Well, who is it this time?" And the friend says who it is. And immediately the man says, "Oh, that guy probably does want to kill me because I have helped him out my whole life." So it that's the end of the story. But it's paradoxical because you would think that if you help somebody, they would be grateful for your help, and they would return goodwill for the goodwill given to them. And sometimes it works out that way, but sometimes goodwill is repaid with ill will. And I've been thinking about that. Um, I've been thinking about that because I've spent my life trying to help people. Uh, I was a doctor, but not just being a doctor. I've tried to help people in my personal life. Um, and many times that help was uh, was viewed as or was responded to with thanks and gratitude, or help in return for me. But not always. Sometimes that help was returned with ill will, wanting to destroy me. Um, there are many different ways to try to destroy somebody. You could kill them physically. You could try to kill them psychically or spiritually, or kill their soul. You don't even have to touch their body. You just destroy their spirit. You could destroy somebody financially by trying to harm their way of making a living in this way of life that we have, where you have to have a job and make money. Or you could financially try to take the money away that they have. You could destroy somebody by destroying their relationships. There are many different ways to hurt somebody. And what I've been, what in my life I've dealt with a couple situations where someone I tried to help tried to hurt me in return and blame me for their problems. Blame me for their their life situation, which I'm not responsible for. And I tried to help them, and actually in the situations I'm thinking about, I actually did help them get better from where they were, but they still were in a tough spot, better than before, but still in a tough spot, and then they blame me for where they are and try to hurt me. It's like, why? Why does that happen? And so that's what I'm going to try to figure out in this video, because I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know, maybe I'll figure it out in this video, maybe not. But that Albanian story, I think, touches on this problem. The man who's told that someone's going to come and try to kill him wants to know if he helped that person or not, or if that's a person that he helped for a long time. And if it is so, then there is more legitimacy to the claim that that person wants to kill him. So why is that? Because you would think that it's the opposite. The more you help somebody, the less likely they are to want to hurt you. Again, this does not apply to every situation. I've helped a lot of people when I was a doctor. And a lot of people were very grateful for that help that I did with surgery. But some people react to it differently. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. So there's something to do with helping somebody, not just as a one-off. Well, it could even be just as a one-off, but particularly if you help somebody repeatedly, that it could turn into this really toxic relationship. I've kind of touched on some of these things before in other videos, but I don't think I've ever tackled this one directly head on. I brought up the scenario that I'm hiking and somebody has fallen off the trail and gotten injured, and they need help to get back to the trailhead. So we're out in the mountains, there's no cell phone signal. Someone gets injured, maybe they twisted their ankle or broke their ankle. They can't make it back on their own. We're a couple miles from the trailhead. There's no way to contact any rescue services unless you have a satellite GPS thing like I do. But let's just say I forgot it that day. It's just me and this injured hiker. They just had bad luck and slipped and broke their ankle. And I helped them. They put their arm around my shoulder and we walk along the trail. And it's slow going because they can only hop on one foot and they're in a ton of pain because the other foot's broken and is dangling and is loose. So we have to stop frequently. And the trail is uneven, so very rocky, and well, we make it back to the trailhead, and I drive them to the nearest town, where we call where, where we call an ambulance, take them to the nearest hospital. And let's just say that all happens, and maybe they got my contact info, and they ended up having surgery on their ankle, and they got better, and months later, they're back to, maybe a year later, they healed up really well, and they're back to hiking. And they text me and they say, "Hey, thank you so much, Gooby, for helping me out that day. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been there and helped me." Okay, that's a good story. I helped somebody out. That who knows what would happen if I wasn't there. They might have been stuck out there and froze to death at night. I don't know. Something could have happened. Maybe they would have made it back on their own somehow. I don't know how they would have. They can't walk. Maybe someone else would have come along and helped them. Maybe they would have been stuck there and immobilized. Maybe they were off the trail, and it was a trail that hardly anyone goes to, and they were stuck there, and they were stuck there for weeks until someone else came by. And they're nearly dead because they are dehydrated and starved. There's so many possibilities. That's a different situation than helping someone repeatedly over time. When someone gets repeated help from someone else, I think there's an unhealthy relationship that forms where one person keeps taking from the other person. The other person keeps giving. There's an imbalance. And I think that sets up an expectation that that person that's being helped will keep getting help. And then that person becomes reliant on the person who's a giver. So there's a taker and a giver. The taker becomes reliant on the giver. And if the taker never learns to help themselves out, well, then they're stuck relying on the giver to give them things. And if the giver gives away everything that they have to the taker, well, then there's nothing left. Then the giver loses what they have. And the taker is upset that they're not getting anything anymore. And so they lash out at the giver who has nothing left to give anymore. Or it could be the possibility that the giver just says, "I'm getting drained by this person. I can't. I've given them what I can. I've helped them out, but I can't give any more because there's just this is it's like a black hole. Like I keep giving into this black hole and nothing ever comes back. The only thing that comes back is anger or harm. I don't want to do that anymore." And then the taker gets super angry that they're not getting what they want anymore, what they need from that other person. And then the taker tries to hurt the giver. That's a pretty sorry state of affairs. I've had this play out a couple times, several times in my life. I mean, I think part of it is because I was a doctor, so my job literally was to help people. And some patients needed help over a long period of time. So, and not all situations ended up like this, but some did, several. And it really makes me question whether to help people, which is messed up. Well, I think it's messed up, but maybe it's not messed up. If I help somebody, there's a chance that I might have to help them again. And there's a chance that they may hate me and want to hurt me for helping them eventually, if that help is withdrawn. Or that help doesn't reach some unrealistic expectation that they have that the help would give them. Well, I would still help people if I can, but I think what I've been learning is that, well, one, I've learned that you can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves. If they don't want to help themselves, nobody can help them. No matter what you do, no matter how many resources you have, nobody can help them. Only if they want to help themselves can they be helped, well, by themselves and by other people. So I think what I've been learning from this is, if I'm in a situation where I might be able to help somebody and I'm trying to decide whether I do want to help them or not, I have to the best of my ability in that situation, figure out whether that person wants to help themselves. Now, how do you do that? Maybe I could just ask them. Maybe I could just ask them, hey, do you, well, that's such a weird question. Hey, person in distress, do you want to help yourself? They'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? If I could help myself, I wouldn't be asking you for help. that would be a weird question to ask. Well, I guess we could go back to that injured hiker situation. There's a movie. There's a movie with I think it's Amy Smart. I can't remember. There's a movie about a search and rescue, a true story. It's based off a true story, but they made a movie about it. There's a search and rescue lady who is on duty in New Hampshire, Mount Washington. It's a very tall mountain in New Hampshire, and it's the winter time. And she visits the mountain, but notices that there's a car parked there, but it's late in the day, and there's a big snowstorm or something that's come through, or so. It's bad weather. It's very cold, and she gets this feeling that this person maybe might be in trouble, and then so she goes up the mountain to look for this person. And this is bad weather and it's almost nighttime. and she goes up there and she finds this person, and this person was very distraught about losing a family member, and essentially went up there in just sneakers and clothes like I'm wearing, just like a sweatshirt, even though it's like freezing and there's snow and ice everywhere. They went up this mountain, up the snow, in like clothes that are not meant, and shoes not meant to be for cold weather and snow, and they essentially went up there to die. And the story is of this lady who tries to rescue this person who went up this mountain to die in the cold. And it's an interesting story, because how do you save somebody who doesn't want to be saved? This guy wanted to die. And she nearly dies trying to bring this person back down off the mountain. But she is so strong physically and internally that she literally drags him down the mountain, nearly dying herself. It's like in the middle of the night, and they're going down the mountain. A guy that doesn't want to live, and he kind of fights her in order to try to stay in the mountain and die in the cold. But she somehow brings him down. It's an interesting, true story, and interesting movie to watch, because how do you help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves? Well, you could literally drag them like that lady did, but you can die doing that. Is it even worth doing that? What if that person blames her for keeping him alive? Yeah, these are just like what is the obligation to help somebody? Well, I guess I could start there. Do I need to help somebody? Well, if I had my ankle broken on a trail and I was trying to get back, but I literally couldn't because my ankle's broken, I would really want help from somebody on the trail to make it back to the car and get some medical attention. So I would think about how I would feel. Like, what if I was in that situation? What would I want? If I wanted to be helped, then I probably would help somebody. I would assess the situation, though, and see if it's safe to help them. I would try to see if they wanted to be helped. I guess I could ask them, do you want help? They might say, of course, you idiot, my ankle's broken. These are weird questions, but like these are questions that I think I have to ask myself at least. Does that person want help? Does that person look like they want to help themselves? And those are hard questions to answer in the heat of the moment when you have very little information and you just stumbled across somebody that is in trouble. Do they want help? Do they want to help themselves? Is it safe to help them? Well, I guess I never really thought about these questions before. I just thought, if someone needs help, I gotta help them. But after many years of helping people, and many of those people were very grateful for the help I provided, but dealing with some people that, even though they did get an improvement in their life situation with my help, but their life still had tough aspects to it, and then they blame me for their life, even though I'm not responsible for their life, and then they try to hurt me. makes me really question whether to help people. And I still think I should help some people, but then the question is, who do I help? And in what situation? I don't want to be in a situation again where I help someone and they blame me for the suffering they have in their life. Everyone has suffering in their life. Some people have more than others. Some people have less. I don't want to be blamed for other people's suffering and then them try to hurt me for that. Yeah, screw that. I'm not going to do that. So, I guess these are important questions I need to ask if I'm going to help somebody, or if I think I might want to help somebody. Yeah. So, okay. Just going to put my thoughts together on this. If someone is in need of help and I feel like I should help them, I should ask myself, does that person want help? Does that person want to help themselves? Is it safe for me to help them? I should also ask, how long will I help them for? Because I don't want to end up in a situation where I am continually helping somebody who is helpless. I've brought this up in another video where one of my friends, he's 80 something, I think. 70s or 80s. He told me that helplessness is the strongest form of control. If someone is constantly helpless, they are actually controlling people around them to take from the people that they control. Helplessness is the strongest form of control because other people, they get guilt tripped into helping. Out of compassion, they say, well, this person is in a bad place, and if I was in that bad place, I would want help. So I'm going to give this person help. But that person just takes the help and doesn't help themselves. They just take the help, just take and take. They don't help themselves. And then they just take from other people, and they take from other people, and they constantly keep taking and taking and taking, and that's how that person survives. But it ends up hurting everyone around them. But that's how that person chooses to live. Helplessness is a very strong form of control. Maybe the most powerful form of control. So I don't want to end up in a situation like that because I've been in something like that and that person wanted to hurt me at the end when I withdrew the help I was giving because it obviously was not helping them. They didn't want to help themselves. So out of protection for myself, I gotta... This is really complicated. Okay, well, so now I got 4 things. Does a person want help? Do they want to help themselves? Is it safe for me to help them? And how long am I going to help them for? Is my help really helping them, or is it hurting them? I guess that's a 5th thing. Helping someone is actually pretty dangerous, I think, in some ways. This is complicated. This is way more complicated than I thought it was. I thought, someone needs help them. It's the right thing to do. It's more complicated than that. It does bring to mind a story that many, many, many people think about a lot. There was a man that lived 2,000 years ago who tried to help his neighbors. And what did he get in return? Well, he got murdered. That's a weird story. You would think that a man who says, hey, we should help our neighbors, you should love your neighbor like you love yourself. Why would someone like that get murdered? So there's something weird about helping people. Well, at this point in my life, I'm going to be more selective in who I help out. I'm going to ask those questions to myself. It'd be kind of weird to ask them to the person, but maybe I could ask them in certain situations. Do you want help? I think that's a good question to ask. Do you want help? And then try to make an assessment. Do they want to help themselves? How long am I going to help them? Is it safe for me to do so? And am I really helping them, or am I making things worse? I think those are good questions to ask before I help anybody. And honestly, life's pretty tough for everybody. So, people are responsible for their own lives. To put a responsibility of your own life on somebody else, I think, is not a good idea. Whether it's a real person or an imaginary person. I think it's good to take responsibility for your own life. Help yourself out. And that brings me to the last thing I wanted to talk about in this video is, how does someone get to the point where they want to help themselves? Because I've seen many situations where somebody didn't want to help themselves. And it's very hard to watch because people around them try to help them and everyone gets burned. And the person who doesn't want to help themselves just keeps getting worse. It's pretty awful to watch. It's terrible, actually. It's heartbreaking. It's harrowing. It can be frightening. It's like a horror movie, watching someone self-destruct. If they don't want to help themselves, nobody can help them. So the last thing I want to talk about in this video about help is, how does someone get to the point where they want to help themselves? If they haven't been, if they haven't been wanting to help themselves up to that point. That is an interesting question. I guess I could look back in my own life and try to figure out when I wanted to help myself. Because there were times when I didn't want to help myself. I was just unhappy with life and unhappy with the choices I had made and the consequences of those choices. So how did I get to the point where I wanted to help myself? Well, let's see here. I made all these choices and I became a neurosurgeon and I was helping people, but it I've made a lot of videos about the issues with modern medicine, surgeries, and the corporate medicine. There's a lot of issues there. I made videos about that. The squeezing of doctors for everything they've got in terms of their life force, in order to make the most money in the system. For the hospitals, for everyone, everyone just wants to make all this money. Doctors included at times. Some doctors, they really do care about, well, I'd say the majority of doctors, I think, care about the health of their patients, but they're in the system that it just cares really about money. And there are some doctors that just care about money too, and kind of patient care is an afterthought. That's really messed up. But I made some choices because I wanted to help people, and I wanted a job that was respected and stable. But I ended up getting in this situation where I was very unhappy. I was not helping myself. I was not in a good place. I was trying to help other people, but not helping myself. So how did I get to the point where I wanted to help myself? I think I got to the point where I realized that all I have is being alive. Nothing else really matters. How much money I have, the stuff I have, the experiences that I could have with money, prestige, social recognition. None of it really matters in relation to whether I'm alive or dead, whether I am living in suffering or peace. Not that there's suffering regardless in life, but to different degrees. Some people can live in hell, literally. Well, not literally. They're living hell here. There's this concept of heaven and hell after this life. But I think heaven and hell actually exist here. People can live in a hellish life that's full of pain and suffering. Or they can live in a life that is heaven-like, where they have much less suffering and peace. I think I realized at some point that that's a choice that I could choose. I think the first time I really realized that was backpacking solo in the mountains. I really think that's the first time I really truly experienced that. Realized that is I went on a very hard hike. It was my first backpacking trip, and I went to the North Cascades National Park, which is near where I live. And it's a very tough, remote, rugged wilderness out there, and I had never backpacked before, and all the campsites were taken except for one campsite that was 12 miles in. I've never backpacked before, so I packed my backpack full of all the stuff I didn't need. It was way too heavy. And I really struggled going those 12 miles with this like ridiculously heavy backpack that was filled with stuff I didn't need. And the biting flies and mosquitoes were pretty horrendous. They were horrendous. I'd never been out there alone before, but I was alone at this campsite. There was no human within several miles, at least 2 or 3 miles away from where I was. So if I got in trouble, there was nobody to help me out. And at that time, I did not have a satellite GPS device. So I really felt, I could die out here. I literally could die out here. No one would ever find me. And I want to live. I don't want to die out here. I like being alive. It was pretty cool. Like, there's mountains and trees, and see some animals and birds, and the water from the stream tastes so good, and these biting flies are so awful. I hide from them, but then at night it gets cool and I can see clouds, and it started raining a little bit, so I didn't have my rain fly on my tent, and I had to get up in the middle of the night and put my rain fly on because I didn't know there was going to be rain in the forecast, but it started raining a little bit. And then the sun is the summertime, so the sun came up like 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and everything's quiet. The flies hadn't woken up yet. And it was beautiful, and I was happy to be alive. I was happy to have survived the night, but I still had to make it back out of the mountains. I had another 12 miles to go back, but I had done it the day before, and my legs were pretty beat up, but they were okay, and my backpack was still really heavy with stuff I didn't need to have brought, but I made it back, and I was so happy to be alive, to have survived. And then I think I realized, you know what? All this other stuff doesn't matter so much. What really matters is that I'm alive, and that I'm happy to be alive. And that I can choose how I'm going to live. Well, to some extent. I can't choose that I'm in this civilization, that I'm in this country, the United States, in 2025. Can't choose a lot of things about the way I live, but I can choose a lot of things that I have a lot of choices about how I can choose to live my life within this bigger system that I don't have as much control over. I have more control and choice over my internal state. So, while this civilization that I live in certainly seems to be crumbling, slowly collapsing, a long emergency, a dwindling of resources, and gradual long-term decrease in quality of life, mainly because we're running out of fossil fuels that are easily accessible. So a non-renewable energy source is dwindling. And our way of life is built on that. But despite that, I can make choices to go through this experience with more suffering or less suffering. And I think being out in the mountains helped me realize that. That helped me get to the point where I realized, my choices can lead to greater suffering or less suffering. So you know what? I think I'm going to make some choices that lead to less suffering. And in that moment, I decided to help myself. So I guess that's how someone can decide to help themselves. They realize that they get to a point where they realize that their choices can lead to more suffering or less suffering. And then I wonder, could you help someone else get to that point? Well, why would you want to? Did they want help? Did they want help? Did they ask for help? Did they want to help themselves? Is it safe to help them? How long are you going to help them for? Are you really helping them? Are you hurting them? Making it worse? Those are interesting questions. I think that making this video, I'm really helping myself figure these things out. This is a really tough question. Do you help somebody? When? Can you help them? Those are tough questions. Well, I think I have a better idea now. But can you help someone get to that point? Well, I think the only way that you might be able to help somebody get to that point where they realize they want to help themselves is, I think, just sharing your experiences like I am right now. Whether, like I'm making this video about how I got to the point where I wanted to help myself. I didn't initially think that that's what this video was going to be about at the beginning, but we got here. I'm sharing how I got to that point and why I got to that point and how I think about it. I think I just want to share that. Not to help somebody, but it might help somebody. Somebody might listen to this and be like, oh, you know what? That really helps me think about what I'm going through, and I do want to help myself. I could make choices where my life has more suffering or less suffering. Well, I'm gonna choose less suffering. There's a funny skit. I think it's Eddie Izzard, or some comedian. I think he's British. I'm not sure. It's called Cake or Death, and it's just it's just random people being asked, in the skit. They have two choices. They can either eat cake or they can die. Cake or death. And it's a funny skit because people are like, cake please. And then the next person is asked, cake or death? And they're like, death. Oh no, wait, cake, yes, cake. And then other people are like, well, I think I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna have to go with cake. But it's I'm not doing it like Eddie is. I think Eddie Izzard. I can't remember who does it. But I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. But I think it's funny because like, why is that even like something to like spend much time thinking about? It's like, of course I'm gonna eat cake if my other choice is death. But in real life, people and ha about it. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep doing this thing that destroys me. Maybe I'm not going to help myself. So in real life, people choose death. I mean, some people do. More people than you would think would choose death. Because it's not labeled clearly. You will die if you choose this option. So they get confused and then they choose it, not understanding that means death. Yeah, life's complicated. Lots of pitfalls. Lots of difficult situations that are complicated, and life turns out unexpectedly. It's hard to know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now. The best we can do is the best we can do. We have a lot of choices in life. Well, I'm glad I made this video. It helps me because I want to help myself. And I will continue helping myself as long as I live. And I won't want to kill myself for doing that because I am helping myself. I am not helpless. I am capable of helping myself. I was going to say, I'm not asking other people for help, but I am part of a global community of humans. I am part of a global ecosystem with lots of other living life forms that I don't exist in isolation. So I think there is always a cooperation, a give and take among everyone, all the people, all the living life forms on this planet. So, yeah, I think this idea that someone can be self-sufficient is a lie. You can't. I literally need to eat plants, at least plants. I could eat animals, but I choose not to. I eat plants, but I need to eat plants. I need to get the calories from plants because they take the energy from the sun into their body. And that's how I get the energy from the sun, is by eating the plants. So I'm grateful for the plants that harness the energy from the sun and incorporate it into their body, and I eat their body to give my body energy. I am grateful for that, and I hope plants live a long time. I want to take care of them. Do they take care of me? Oh, you know what? I didn't talk about that. This is literally the last thing. I think this is a long video. Yeah, it's a long video. A friendship is in a friendship, I think there is a mutual helping. Not all relationships are just giving from one person and taking from the other person. That's a very unhealthy relationship. I think that there are healthy relationships where people give and take mutually. There is a back and forth and equality of giving and taking. And that helps people survive and live and have a good life. So I appreciate those friendships that I have. Like with Doobie, who's passed out over here. She's so cute. She's got her eye open. I'm going to try to show her. Her eye is partially open. Oh, it's closed now. Very regular breathing. Well, I really appreciate those relationships of mine, my friendships that are give and take equally. A healthy relationship. I'm going to foster those. Those are precious relationships. Well, I can't think of anything else to talk about helping people at this time. Hope you have a good day or evening, and yeah, see you in the next video.